I mean, I can also share the grades with you as well. They need a lot of calculations in 10 minutes. In this case, you don't actually need any calculations. You just needed to look at the output. You don't even need to make any calculations then. If the R on the exam is easier than the weekly assignments, it will be similar to weekly assignments, I would say. So as long as, let me also clarify that for the exam, the R coding question, it will not be something different than what you've already see in any of the assignments. So in that sense, if you have done the assignments and then go back and check the answers, you should not have any problem with doing the exam. Does a regression use complete observations or pairwise complete observations by default? It should be pairwise complete observations. So it's all actually like whatever you include in the regression equation, it will take a complete observation only on those columns. Yes, I can share the grades. Okay, so let's move on with the conceptual foundations. First, moderation. As you know, moderation is related to a third variable affecting the relationship between two variables. So here in this picture, V1 has a direct effect on Y, and Y is a dependence variable, and V2 is a moderator. So V2 affects the magnitude of the relationship or the effect of V1 on Y. So in other words, it modifies the original relationship between V1 and Y. So we are talking about this kind of third interactor variable that affects the relationship between the two variables that already exist. Okay. So some examples here, for instance, the effect of salary on the intention to take a job depends on age. So it might be that as you basically get older, you might expect higher salaries, for instance, then like a higher salary might, a lower salary, for instance, might affect your intention to take a job more if you're older than if you're younger. The effect of advertisement on brand sales depends on ease of message processing. This can be related to the kind of content of the advertisements, right? We don't expect any advertisement to affect the sales in the same way. So it should be related to the content of this advertisement. So that can be related to message processing. And the other one is related to price discount on product sales. And this depends whether the discount is featured in the retailer's store flyer, which is an example we will look at today. So it might be that, I mean, of course, we can expect discounts to affect sales. So if there's more discount, probably you might have more sales because people will buy more stockpile as well. But it might be that they are not actually aware of this discount. And if this price discount is featured in the store flyer, then it might be more likely that more people are informed about this discount, which means actually more sales, probably. Okay, so if you feature a discount in the flyer or not, might actually change the relationship between price discount and product sales. Okay. Before that, let me check the Q&A. I see something related to quiz. I did a sample quiz for all 4 weeks that you posted on Canvas, and there was an R question with recoding. Do you think we will have to recode variables in the exam? We have only 3 quizzes. I'm not sure what you mean by all 4 weeks, but yeah, overall, it might be that in the exam, you might need to this sample quiz, sorry. Okay, yeah, it might be that you actually need to recode a variable in the exam if it is related to, yeah, for instance, construct or the, yeah, construct validity. So discriminant or convergent validity. Yeah, but overall, my point is like you might need to recode, but it would be obvious. Like if you will be provided with the questions, items, and then you need to basically check if one of the items was reverse a reverse question. Basically, it was asked in the other way. Then it's obvious that you actually need to recode that. Or for instance, if you see this negative correlation within all of the items where all of the other correlations between the items are positive, right? So if we talk about, let's say, a 4-item scale, so 4 of the questions are related to one of the constructs, and then only one of these items have a negative correlation with the others, or this particular item has a negative loading for one of the factors that they belong to in the factor analysis. This means that you actually need to recode this variable. Will the answer sheets for the weekly assignments be posted for study? The answer sheets are already posted for the first 3 assignments. So you can check the modules. The RMD files are already available. Good. So we talked about what moderation is, right? In general. Now let's add on to that. So as we said, moderator actually changes the relationship or like modifies the relationship between 2 variables. And it can actually have a strengthening or weakening effect. Okay. So, or no effect. So it might be that this is not a moderator, basically, but if it is a moderator, meaning that if it is significant, then it might have a strengthening or a weakening effect. What do we mean by strengthening? It might be that it means that the higher values of the moderator increase the effect of IV on DV. So it means that, for instance, if your independent variable has a positive effect on your dependent variable, increasing moderator makes this effect more positive. So it is a stronger effect with the increasing moderator. But it might also be that your direct effect is actually negative. So your independent variable affects the dependent variable negatively, and the moderator can make this effect more negative. So this is, I know it might be a bit hard to grasp, but basically, if your moderator is making the effect more intense, okay, then we call this a strengthening effect. So the effect of, for instance, the discount on the quantity. So the quantity that you buy on unit price might actually be negative, right? So as you buy more, maybe you get more discounts for 1 unit of the items in a store. But it might be that as you, I couldn't find a moderator right now for this. But it might be that if you feature this in, for instance, if you feature this quantity discount in the flyer, then maybe this becomes even more negative. So this unit price might maybe change more. So this is again a strengthening effect. Okay. I hope this makes sense. The same we will talk in the weakening effect. So then the higher values of the moderator decrease the effect of IV on DV. And in this case, for instance, if your IV has a positive effect on DV, for moderator to be weakening, increasing moderator should make this effect less positive. And vice versa, if the IV has a negative effect on DV, then the increasing moderator makes this effect less negative. Okay, it's always about like then this is less intense. With the moderator, like with the increasing moderator, your effect becomes less intense. And this, of course, the meaning of less intense depends on the main effect of your independent variable on your dependent variable. If it is negative, then less intense means that this is actually less negative, right? Okay, let's look at these a little bit more in detail and also graphically. Here you see an example on two regression lines, basically. When we have a moderator, if this moderator is a dummy variable, then we actually get two different regression lines. The independent variable here is the employee engagement, so it is low or high. And the dependent variable is related to innovative work behavior. And here we have a moderator called psychological empowerment. So we might expect different effects depending on the low-high levels of psychological empowerment. The relationship between employee engagement and innovative work behavior changes. In this case, the dummy variables are like one is the employee engagement, the other one is actually psychological empowerment. So in this case, both the independent variable and moderator are dummy variables. Okay. So you, like when you have a moderator, you can graphically represent this. Here we have the independent variable employee engagement. So this is low level, this is high level. This is your dependent variable. And then the moderator, you can describe it in two lines. So we will not ask you to come up with this kind of output yourself, but it is important that you are able to actually read it. So when so here you see that for the low psychological empowerment level of the moderator, first of all, okay, let's start with a general observation that both of these lines are positive sloped, right? Meaning that when you go from low employee engagement to high employee engagement, there is more innovative work behavior because these are positively sloped. This point is higher than this, and this point is higher than this. So, and then if you look at the moderator, you get two different lines, actually, two different regression lines, because moderator changes the relationship between IV and DV. As you can see in the low psychological empowerment case, the slope is less. And in the high psychological empowerment, you see a steeper slope. So this change in innovative work behavior from low to high is actually more pronounced, like it's more intense in the case of high psychological environment. This is exactly what we talked when we talked about strengthening effects, right? So here in both of the cases, the slope increases. So we talk about a positive effect. So you can think this in terms of absolute value effect as well. So if you see a higher absolute value, then this is a strengthening effect. Yeah, in the case of course, yeah, when you have a strengthening effect, you can think about the slope. Yeah, I mean, slope means the difference between these 2 points, basically. In this case, why is the DV not a dummy variable? Innovative work behavior. Yeah, in this case, it is measured on a scale. So this is, yeah, I think this is ratio or probably interval. By main effect, you mean the relationship between IV and DV? Yes. When I say main effect, this corresponds to the relationship between IV and DV. We will see also more about that in a couple of minutes. How do you know which of the two lines is correct now? So in this case, there is no correct or wrong line. This is just related to, based on your moderator level, the relationship changes. So both of these lines might be correct, and they are correct in this case. But this just, one is the picture of the relationship when you have low psychological environment, empowerment, and the other one is the picture. So other one is the relationship between employee engagement and innovative work behavior when you have a high psychological empowerment. Okay, so this is exactly what the moderator means. So it actually modifies the relationship between IV and DV. Like both of these lines are correct. So you just refer to different lines based on different levels of the moderator. Only the DV is the dummy variable? No, the IV and the moderator, because they have two levels, right? Low, high, low, high. These are nominal variables or ordinal variables, but they have two levels, and then you can describe these as dummy variables. Okay. To recap, basically, you have a positive effect on like at each level of the moderator. So the main effect is actually positive. And then you see that the higher level of the moderator, so going from low to high in this case, actually increases this relationship, intensifies this relationship, if you will. So then we talk about the strengthening effect. This would be the same if you had a negative direct effect as well, or negative main effect. Okay, if you had a negative main effect like this and this, then we will again talk about the strengthening effect. So if the sign of the moderation is the same as the sign of the main effect, then we talk about the strengthening effect. Yes, this is indeed an example of strengthening effect. Let's look at examples of weakening effects. So in the case of weakening, we will actually split this into two different kinds of effects. One is antagonistic, one is buffering. Let's start with the buffering case. So in this case, you have low versus high digital transformation. So this is your independent variable, and you have a competitive advantage. So apparently the digital transformation levels actually changes a firm's competitive advantage. And how does it change it? When we look at both of these lines, we see positive signs, right? So the positive slopes, basically. So meaning that when we go from low to high digital transformation levels, the competitive advantage increases in both cases. But we see that when there is a low innovative capability of the firm, in this case, this slope is actually higher compared to when we have a high innovation capability. So when we go from the moderator level low to high, this slope is becoming flatter, meaning that there is actually a weakening effect. So the slope decreases. And then the sign of the moderation is opposite to the sign of the main effect. And in this case, this is buffering, because in both cases, we see a same sign slope. So in this case, in this picture, the digital transformation, increasing digital transformation increases competitive advantage in both cases. But the strength of this increase is higher when you have a low innovative capability. Okay. So then this moderator of the innovation capability actually buffers the effect between digital transformation and competitive advantage. Does that make sense? Because you see a buffer. When you have a higher innovative capability, this effect of digital transformation becomes less of a thing for the competitive advantage. And when we look at the other picture, we see an antagonistic effect. So in this case, actually, the increasing level of moderator flips the sign of the relationship. So let's look at more carefully. In this case, we have an independent variable called business age. So this is the age of your company, basically. And we want to understand the performance of the company. So this is your dependent variable. And here you see the moderator. So this is like low size and high size. So this is the size of the company. And apparently when the company size is low, you actually, I actually did this. So this should be opposite. If I can quickly change that, let me do it with you here. So in this case, this should be actually the other way around. So this is low size. This is the low size line, and this is the high size line. Okay. So in this case, in the low size case, there is a negative relationship. So when you have an older firm, the performance decreases if the firm is small. If the firm is actually big, then the higher business age, so the older your firm is, the higher the performance. So when you go from this low size to lower level of the moderator to the higher level, this relationship's direction flips. This we call an antagonistic effect. So if you can see here, what happens is we go from here to here, like if you follow these lines, basically. So this is the low size line, this is another line, and then we achieve this line, meaning that it actually first kind of goes to flat and then changes the size, changes this sign. So this is already a weakening effect because you see that this negative effect has become actually positive. Does that make sense? Let's check the questions because these are important to understand conceptually. So in the first graph, the directions are opposite because low effect is actually higher and higher effect is actually lower. So you talk about this. In this case, the directions are not the direction of the main effect and the moderation, you mean? Yes, because here we see a positive slope in both cases. So if you look at this slope versus this slope, so it's actually smaller. This reduced the relationship between the two. When I go from low to high, I see that this slope was like this, it became like this. So the slope decreased. So that's indeed, like in this case, the main effect and the moderation effect is on the opposite sides. That's why it's a weakening, or in this case, buffering effect. Yes, that's correct. Both antagonistic and buffering are examples of weakening effects. But how does it just flip? Yeah, it might be in, this moderator is so important that if you actually don't consider the firm size, you might actually make wrong conclusions. So this is just the way it works in some cases. If you have an antagonistic moderator, it might actually change the sign, like the direction of the relationship. We will see, of course, the R output examples of these, but here I just want to give you a conceptual kind of underpinnings of this so that it's clearer when you see these numbers. Yes, Nasya, that's again true, because in this case you have a positive effect, direct effect, but the moderation is actually negative. So when you go from low to high innovation, you add something negative so that the slope actually becomes flatter. How can we see that it is a negative effect? So for instance, in this case, any regression line, any simple regression actually can be represented on a two-dimensional space. In this case, you have one independent variable and one dependent variable and another moderator. And moderator you just represent with these different line types. So this is a dashed line, this is a continuous line. When you look at the low size case, low size level, you see that when you go from low to high, the performance actually decreases. So this is a negative effect, right? So it was around 14. And when you increase the business age, so the company age, whatever, the performance became 6. So this is a negative effect. In this case, when you have actually, wait, I've been explaining wrong, right? Because this is the low size, this is the high size. So previously it was correct. I'm sorry, I will just change this to a straight line and this to a dashed line. And then it will be, like my explanation will be correct. But the point here is that assume that this is the, wait. This is a continuous line, okay? Let me just do it like this. So if this is your continuous line, and then if this is actually the dashed line, yeah, sorry for this, I didn't look at carefully. So the previous sign of like previous arrow direction was actually correct. But it's also a good example of an antagonistic effect when you have a direct effect negative. So in this case, yeah, let's do it this way and this way. I'm gonna change the, okay. I'm gonna upload a new version, so don't worry about that. But here, so if this is the low size case, we see a negative relationship. In the high size case, we see a positive relationship because when we go from low to high, we see that the performance increases. Okay. Which one is the decreasing one? Both of them are in a way weakening. If you mean weakening, both of these are actually weakening effects. In one of the cases, the slope became flatter. So it was high and it became flatter. In this case, it became flatter, but it actually then flipped size, flipped direction. So both of them are actually weakening. Can you explain more what's happened to the competitive advantage with low and high digital transformation? Yes. So when you have a moderator, you need to look at the relationships at different levels of the moderator, okay? Because that really depends on the level of the moderator. As we said, the moderator modifies the relationship between the independent variable and the dependent variable. In this case, First, let's look at the low innovation capability. We see that there is a positive effect of digital transformation on competitive advantage. So here you actually see that when you go from low to high, the competitive advantage goes from 2.9 to 3.4 or something like that. When you have high innovation capabilities, you see that this change in the competitive advantage when you go from low to high digital transformation is actually less of a thing. So it's less intense of an effect. That's why we call this a weakening moderator. So innovation capabilities here is a weakening moderator in this case. And if we add something positive, the slope will be higher. Yes, it's indeed the case then, yeah. So if you actually add a positive moderator, like a moderator with a positive coefficient, then this slope will actually become more steeper. Like it will become like this. Is this then a multiple regression line because of the moderator? Yes, because we have more than one variables on the right-hand side. But yeah, don't worry too much about multiple versus simple regression in the case of a moderation. Okay, let's see some numbers now. And in this case, we will look at this example that I mentioned. We will look at the effect of introducing price discounts, so no, yes. So it's a dummy variable on product sales. This researcher wonders if this relationship between price discount and sales depends on featuring the discount in the retailer's flyer. So this is also a no, yes question. Here, then we have a dummy variable, independence variable, and a dummy variable moderator. So that's why this is a dummy moderation, basically. If you look at the data, we have weeks, so 2015 week 10, 2015 week 11, etc. Sales in $1,000. The price discount, if this week had a price discount, in this case, apparently the 10th week didn't have a discount. And if this discount was featured in the flyer of this supermarket. And in this case, it is 1. So this discount, I mean, there were no discount, but it was featured. Okay. So first, let's look at the simple regression case where we regress the sales on price discount. So this is, again, our regular regression, right? Like we have an intercept, we have the coefficient of the price discount. So this represents the change in sales with a unit change in price discount. So going from no to yes in this case. And then we have an error. When you fit this in R, you use sales as a dependence variable and price discount as a independence variable. In this case, apparently 1 unit increase in the price discounts. In this case, it's a dummy variable, right? So we can also interpret this as going from no discount to discount increases sales by 15.20 to 5 thousandths. So around 15,000, sorry. Why is the same of the data set not in the code? I don't get the question. A name of the data sets. Well, yeah, in this case, it's missing. I think these were just provided as vectors in this case. But in general, yes, you can have a data here. It's fine. I will correct it so that it's not confusing. I cannot. This is a picture. But you can have data here as well. Like when you are using the columns of a data, which is in general, you use it that way, indeed, then you specify the data frame. Otherwise, you will get an error. In this case, it's not used because you can also just include sales vector and price discount vector. So these are just one columns and then regress them on each other as well. But don't worry about that. It's fine. Okay, so let's now look at how we can add the moderator in the regression model in R, or in general, actually. When we talk about like mathematically what happens with moderation is that when you have a moderator, we can measure this effect by an interaction term between the independent variable and the moderator variable. So here we have, let's say, this independent variable v1. Now we want to add v2 as a moderator. We then include its main effect, okay, or direct effect of this moderator, and an interaction term between the two. An interaction simply means actually a multiplication of two values. So this variable 1 and variable 2, we multiply the numbers that we see in the data set. So this is the representation of the model mathematically when you have an independent variable and a moderator. And yeah, this is an important thing, is that whenever you have a moderator, to really get the meaning, like to really get the interpretation of if the relationship between IV and DV became stronger or not, you need to always include the independent variables, meaning that the V1 and V2. So these represents the main effects. Okay. So just as a kind of rule in mind, you will never ever include only this multiplication. You will always include both of the variables as main effects and their multiplication. Okay. And in this case, if you look at this, then beta 3 or B3, this will be the moderation effect or moderating effect. And how we can actually interpret this then, yeah, not necessarily this, but if you look at then the effect of the independent variable, in this case, 1 point increase in the independent variable V1 changes the dependent variable by B1 plus B3 times V2, right? Because if I increase V1 by 1, so if I increase this by 1, I'm not only affecting this, so it's not only the effect of this coefficient, but I see also V1 here. So beta 3 also has an effect, but this also depends on the level of V2. So this is what we have just seen, right? Because V2 is the moderator, the effect of V1 on Y, so the effect of independent variable on dependent variable, actually depends on the level of the moderator. So that's why this 1 point increase in the independent variable changes dependent variable by beta 1, so its main effect, and beta 3 times V2. So beta 3 times the level of the moderator. Okay. So this is why you actually include this multiplication. And how do we do this with the data? We simply multiply this column with this column. And in R, this is actually done automatically in the LM function. You will see in a minute. Previously, we had this intercept, beta 1 and price discount. Now we added this beta 2 times V2 and their interaction. So this will be related to a unit change in the interaction term of price discount and feature add then. Let's look at the result. So in this case, what you can just do is to include price discount, feature ads, and price discount times feature ads. So you don't actually need to calculate it yourself, or you don't have to record this as a new column in the data, but you can just include this in the regression equation. Okay. Again, we have just dv. This is the independent variable. So main effect of price discount, main effect of feature ads. So even though this is a moderator, you just add this as if this is also an independent variable, which is then called the main effect. So this is the main effect of the feature ad. And then you include this multiplication between price discount and feature ad. And this we call an interaction term. And as always, you get the summary output. Here, for the moderation, we focus on this line. So price discount, column feature add, meaning that the interaction effect of price discount and feature add. And this means that actually giving discounts and featuring them. So whenever they are both 1, right? In this case, remember that these are both dummy variables. So whenever we see both of them equal to 1, giving discounts and featuring them in the flyer increases the sales by 11 so this is 11,675 compared to the other cases, because these are both dummy variables, right? And dummy variables, if you remember, we always interpret them in comparison to the intercept. And in this case, intercept is 0, 0. So whenever you have price discount and feature at 0, whenever you don't have a price discount and there is no feature of the product in the flyer, the mean sales is 44,000 euros, okay? And in this case, the moderator then represents the increase in the sales when you both have price discount and feature ad. Why do you interpret the dummy variables in relationship to the intercept? Because for each dummy variable, we actually have reference groups, right? So we have covered this 2 weeks ago. When you include a dummy variable in the regression, the coefficients that you see refers to one level of this dummy variable, and the intercept represents the reference group. And in this case, you have 2 dummy variables. And when these dummy variables are both 0, the intercept represents the mean sales when both of the dummies are 0. Okay, when all of the independent variables are 0, what's the mean dependent variable? Is the general interpretation of the intercept. And in this case, if all of the independent variables, like all of the variables here, are 0, then the moderation is also 0, which means that you are in the case of no. So no price discount, no feature ad. Okay. And this is significant and positive. So let's now look at the main effects. Okay. When we look at this price discount, we see this 8,000. Okay. And this is positive. This means giving a discount actually increases sales by 8,000 when there is no moderating effect. Because if you actually have feature ads, you basically, in a way, activate this moderation effect, right? So you need to actually add on this 11,000 on 8,000 to understand the effect of price discount. But if you want to only understand the main effect or interpret this coefficient that you see here, this is the level of price discount effect. So when you like the increase in sales when you have price discount, when there is no moderating effect. So when the ad is not featured in the flyer. Similarly, I didn't include it here, but if you look also at feature ad, you can also interpret this as the effect, the main effect of feature ads is 5,000 euros when price discount is 0. Okay. And to evaluate if this moderation is strengthening or not, okay, first of all, we see that this is positive and significant, right? This moderation effect. So this multiplication is positive and significant. To evaluate if this is strengthening or weakening, we need to evaluate both the main effect and the moderation effect together. And in this case, we see that this is 8. And on top of that, we see this positive moderation effect. So this is the positive main effect. This is significant and the same directional moderation. Then you see this strengthening moderation here, meaning that the feature ad actually enhances the relationship between price discount and sales. The mean in the last case is 44 plus 11. In the last case, meaning this case, look, if you have both price discounts and feature ads, then then you have to actually sum up all of these numbers. But the difference between, for instance, if you have price discount and if you have price discount and then you want to understand the effect of feature ads, because that's the moderation, right? So let's say you had price discount. So price discount is 1. And then you want to understand what's the effect of feature ad when you have a price discount. That is this moderation effect. So on top of this 44.225, and this is prediction, right? So here, if someone asks you what's the average sales when you have a price discount but no feature ads, you put 0 for feature ads. So these are canceled. So you don't have a moderation effect in this case because this is 0. And then you know that this is a dummy variable, so you need to add intercept plus a dummy variable. So this is around 52,000 euros when you only have price discounts. And when you also feature that in the flyer, then you have 1 feature ad, 1 also here feature ad. So this is, you need to sum up all of these to understand this is the mean sales basically, but that's prediction, right? So if you actually want to understand the effect of like the moderating effect of feature ad on price discount, it is only this 11,000 because this is the main effect of feature ads. So this is basically, this happens even if you don't have a discount. But when we want to understand the moderating effect of feature ad on price discounts, then we want to understand what's the, like when we have feature ad, what's the effect of that on the relationship between price discount and sales. So this is the moderation, right? Yes, I've just explained the moderation effect. So when you have the future ad, how does this moderate the effect of price discount on independent variable, which is sales? What is one main effect is negative and one positive? I'm not sure if I'm following this. Maybe you can formulate it in a different way. Let's now look at this on a plot, as we did before. So in this case, again, we have a moderation. So we can represent the line types with the moderator. So in this case, this blue line is when this product is not featured in the flyer, and the red line is when it's featured. Here, in both cases, you see actually positive effects, and then you see that it's actually more positive. The slope is more positive, so it's steeper when this product is featured. And this is exactly what we have seen, right? So this was 11.675. We saw that this effect becomes higher when the discount is featured. And here you see this price discount 0 and 1. So you see this as a numeric variable, but it actually only has two levels. This is 0 and 1. So when the price discount goes from 0 to 1, you have higher sales in both cases. But this effect is higher when the discount is featured in the flyer. So this is then a strengthening effect. Okay. Can you explain what the intercept represents? Yes, in this case, the intercept represents when you don't have a price discount and this product is not featured in the flyer. So this is then just the intercept that you observed here. So you don't have a feature ad and the price discount is also not there. So 0, 0, if you will. And then this one is when the product is featured in the flyer. So that for that dummy, you have a 1. So this is actually 44.225 plus 5. Okay. You don't have a discount, but you only have the feature ads, this one. And then you can basically calculate this. This is then 0. Sorry, this is 1, 0. So 1 for the price discount, but 0 for the featured ad. And then this is 1, 1 case where both of the dummies are 1. Okay. Why would the moderator coefficient be if it would have a weakening effect? Yeah, in this case, it could be that for moderator to be weakening, it has to be negative and significant. Okay. So if this is, I don't know, even if this is negative 0.001 and significant, we can talk about a weakening effect, because then the slope would have been flatter for the case of featured. It doesn't have to be below this line, but it would have been flatter. So it would have been something like this, for instance. Yeah. Okay. So it could have been something like this. So if you see, like, the slope here is flatter than the not featured case, and slope here is actually like, this is the exact parallel. So if these two lines are parallel, then actually the effects are the same. The effect of price discount on sales per unit increase of price discount would be the same. In the case of strengthening moderation, this slope gets steeper. In the case of weakening moderation, it gets flatter. And in the case of antagonistic, it actually flips signs. I hope this makes it clearer. No moderation, strengthening moderation, and antagonistic moderation. Okay. So not to confuse you, I will just delete this. Okay. So when you have, what if one of the main effects is negative and the other one is positive? So when we talk about moderation, this is a good question because we just add the multiplication of two variables, right? We basically define conceptually what is the moderator and what is the independent variable in this case. Because here we define actually the feature add as a moderator on the effect of price discount, we only look at these price discounts and feature the moderation. We are actually not necessarily interested in the main effect of the feature add. We are interested in the effect of feature add on the direct effect between price discount and sales. So you will always have this kind of conceptual definition of the moderation when you add it into a regression model. And that will also inform you about which of the main effects you want to look at to compare it with the moderation effect. Does that make sense? So in the case of if the price discount, the main effect of price discount was actually negative, we wouldn't care. It would only mean that, let me also quickly show that, it would only mean that you have, it would only mean that moderation would actually start from below this line. Okay, so there is a negative effect, like negative main effect, but still the moderation effect could be positive. Okay. Now, okay, that's good. And we cannot interpret the feature add coefficient on its own. You can actually do that again. It's basically when you have no discount, what's the level, what's the difference between having a feature add or not. But when you don't have a price discount. But in this case, it's less of importance for us because we are interested in its moderating effect on the price discount. But feature does is not significant, right? But then the strengthening effect is, how does that work? Okay. So it might be that actually the feature that on its own might not have a significant effect, but only the moderation effect on the price discount might be significant. Yeah, which is indeed this case. So this is totally fine. It means that when price discount is zero, you actually the difference between sales with feature adds and not is actually not significant, but still the effect of feature add on the relationship between price discount and sales is significant. Okay, so the moderation is significant, but the main effect when price discount is zero might not be significant. I want to, yes, the plot with no moderation looks like basically two parallel lines. If you have two levels for the moderation. Okay, so this is again a reminder of always add the main effects. So you, like when you add the interaction term, you have to add the main effects for both of the variables that is included in the interaction term. Yeah, so this is a kind of an example where if you will the true model, so the correct model in the population is that variable 1 and variable 2 actually has an impact on y, but there is actually no interaction between variable 1 and 2. So there is no moderation effect. If you test this model, test this kind of hypothesis with your data in a model, and you just include variable 1 and variable 1 times variable 2, and not the main effect of variable 2, this might just capture the actually effect of this term. The coefficient related to this term might actually just capture the effect of V2 only. Okay, because this is just the multiplication of two variables. So this is why we always also add the main effect to tease out the moderation effects on its own. So this also kind of goes back to this hypothetical question of like, what if the main effect of feature add is negative, but the moderation effect is positive? So in that case, we really understand, okay, feature add on its own, when there's no discount, actually has a negative effect, but it has a positive moderating effect for the relationship between price and sales. Okay, we can take a break now. So let's meet at 10:25. Are you using moderation and main effect interchangeably? I'm not. Yeah, if I did that, I don't think I did that, but basically main effect is the effect without moderation, and the moderation is the moderation effect. So the interaction effect, basically. And when we talk about the main effect, we basically say when there is no interaction effect. So it's when the moderation level is 0, if you will. Okay, so let's now look at the moderation example when our IV and also the moderator are both continuous or metric variables. In this case, the example is that a researcher wants to understand the effect of advertising on the intention to adopt an innovation. He considers when a country's level of individualism versus collectivism affects this relationship. And then, yeah, you basically then have this observations on intention to adopt. This is between 1 and 7. It could be something like a Likert scale. How likely are you to adopt? And then you have advertising spending per million inhabitants and the individualism score. So both of these are metric variables. And to be to add this in to add the interaction term in the model, we simply just multiply these two. So you have this V1 times V2. So nothing different here. And also here. So there's nothing different in this case. We have the main effect, and then we add this interaction effect, which represents the unit change in the interaction term. Okay. So here we have the intention to adopt as DV individualism times advertising spent per per million inhabitants. So this is one thing with R. Whenever you actually just give the interaction term, it automatically understands that you want to include an interaction, like you want to test the moderation, and then it adds automatically the main effect. Okay, so you don't have to write individualism plus advertising spending per million inhabitants plus the interaction. You can just write the interaction and it will automatically add this. Or you can manually also just write individual, IV1, the variable 1, variable 2, and their multiplication. So it's just equivalent to this, but it's just an easier way to do this in R. So don't be confused by that. In this case, we look at the interaction term. So here the advertising, so this is actually looking at the individualism as a moderator. So that's a bit different than what we've said conceptually. But let's take this as, so we are interested in the effect of individualism on advertising spent on the intention to adopt. So we are interested in the relationship between advertising spending and intention to adopt. And we now look at individualism as a moderator. It could have been the other way around, but this is just what the slide shows actually. And the main effect here, as before, is the effect of advertising spending when you have no moderation, meaning that when you have zero individualism. And this is non-significant. When you look at the moderation, you see that there's a significant and negative effect on this. Okay. So when you have basically more individualism, the effect of advertising is less than before. So 1 point higher individualism then decreases the effect of advertising spending on the intention to adopt. This is the same direction as the main effect. So then it's strengthening. Okay, so we don't necessarily care much about the significance when we look at the direction of the main effect. And we see that both the moderation effect and the main effect are on the same side. This then means a strengthening effect, as we have seen. And then the 1 point increase in advertising actually leads to 0.038 minus 0.038 minus 0.013 times the level of individualism in the country that you're interested in. Okay. So then we can also look at individualism. So this is kind of the change in perspective. If we say that conceptually, we want to understand how advertising spending is actually moderating the relationship between individualism and intention to adopt. then we need to look at the main effect of the individualism and the moderation effect. Okay. In this case, we can again say that this is a negative moderation. So higher advertising spending decreases the effect of individualism on the intention to adopt. In this case, this is a weakening effect because the main effect of individualism was actually positive. So as you increase the advertising spending, this decreases the effect of individualism on intention to adopt. You can see it clearly here as well. So if you increase individualism 1 point, then the main effect is 0.010. So this is kind of rounded up, minus 0.013 times ad spend. So this plus is not there, basically. Okay, so this is positive, this is negative. You can easily see that as you increase ad spending, this effect of individualism actually becomes negative. And we said this is weakening, and here is a note that this is likely antagonistic. And in the case of metric variables, being antagonistic or buffering really depends on the range of the variable, range of the moderating variable. If you think that, not if you think that, but if in your data or if in your context, the level of the moderation can actually flip the sign of the main effect, then you can say that this is an antagonistic effect. And in the case of the course, like for the course purposes, like if we ask if something is buffering or antagonistic, you should be able to understand if we are talking about a dummy variable, because then you immediately know the range, right? 0, 1. Or we will give you a range of variables. And in this case, if 1 million ad spending is realistic, so that is because that represents a 1 point increase, then you basically, this becomes negative, right? The effect of individualism becomes negative. Then we can talk about an antagonistic effect. Does that make sense? But if 1 million ad spending, like the range of this ad spending doesn't make sense, then this could be also a buffering effect. But this will be clear if there is a question related to this. Overall, like conceptually, it's important to understand that when you have metric variables, when you have a metric also moderator, it's important to understand the range of this variable to conclude if this causes an antagonistic moderation or a buffering moderation. Okay, so this is again a note on main effects. We have this multiple regression here, beta 0, beta 1 times ad spend, beta 2 times individualism. So if we didn't have a moderation effect, then the regression coefficient mean that the effect of x on y, basically, when you talk about this focal independent variable, let's say we are interested in ad spend, beta 1 is the effect of ad spend on intention to adopt, or effect of 1 unit increase in ad spend on intention to adopt, keeping all other IVs constant at any value. So this is ceteris paribus we talked about. So keeping individualism constant, 1 unit increase in ad spend leads to beta 1 increase in intention to adopt. When we have a moderated regression, though, so we add the interaction between individualism and ad spend, then the main effects mean that the effect of x on y, again, so the generic meaning of this is the same, but this has a specific meaning because this is when the moderators of x are exactly 0 and keeping all other independent variables constant. Okay, so when you have a moderated regression and when you talk about only the coefficient of the main effect, the moderators has to be at 0 level. And you then also keep all other independent variables, because you might also have control variables in the regression, you need to keep those constant. So ceteris paribus still applies for the other variables that are not included in the moderation, but the moderator itself has to be 0. Okay, is this clear? Okay, I don't see any questions, so I hope it's clear. So again, just to reiterate, in the first case, the individualism and advertising spend, here we don't have the moderation. Advertising spending, for instance, increases intention to adopt by 6.65, keeping individualism constant. But here, advertising spending, we have the moderation effect. Here, the advertising spending leads to, this is insignificant. So maybe let's look at individualism. Here, individualism leads to 0.009 increase in intention to adopt when advertising spending is 0. Okay, so because we need to kind of cancel out this effect of moderation. So this is basically how you interpret the main effects and the interaction effects in a moderation model. Let's now talk a bit about the predictions. So we are looking at the moderated regression. So we have the effect of individualism and advertising spending, and we are interested in intention to adopt. So what is the predicted intention to adopt in Argentina? Apparently here the advertising spending per million inhabitants is 0.03 and individualism is 46. This is basically, you include intercept, the main effect of the advertising, the main effect of advertising spending, and their interaction. So there is nothing very different here. You just plug in numbers. When we talk about what's the effect of 1 point increase in advertising in Argentina, then we can increase advertising by 1. But when we do this, we include the main effect, so there's nothing different again. But because we have moderation here, the level of individualism is also important. Okay? So the effect of actually advertising depends on the effect of the individualism. So because we are not changing the individualism level in Argentina, which is constant, right? Then we also multiply this interaction effect with the individualism level plus 1 point increase in advertising. So we can also look at the differences between countries. So the difference between predicted intention to adopt in Argentina and Australia, for instance. This depends on the, if you keep the advertising spend constant, but change the level of individualism, basically, because there are different levels of individualism in Australia and Argentina, right? We know that this is for Argentina, and this is for Australia. So in Australia, the level of individualism is actually 90. And apparently the, yeah, okay, in this case, because the level of, level of advertising doesn't matter, right? We will talk about the difference, so this will cancel out. So you can just take advertising spending at any level that you want, and then look at the difference between the two. So calculate the level of intention to adopt in Argentina. So here intercept the advertising spending, the level of individualism, and then the interaction between spending and individualism times the interaction effect. Do the same for the Australia. And then, okay. Yeah, I'm so sorry. So, okay. Again, in this case, yeah, I should have been clearer, even I confused myself. So advertising in one of the countries is 0.03 in Argentina, okay, and 0.013 in Australia. And then you also know that individualism is 46 in Argentina. I mean, of course, when you have the data, for instance, in R, this is something that you can easily check. But for the slides, I think more description is needed. And I will, again, upload this after the lecture. Okay. So this is, again, making two predictions, and then you will take a difference between the two. So there's nothing, again, super interesting there, I guess. When we talk about the difference between the predicted effect of advertising in Argentina and Australia, then we can look at only the advertising effect. Okay, we keep the basically, yeah, we just look at the effect of advertising. When we increase advertising by 1 point, then the effect of no, this is just level difference in effect of advertising. Yeah, I'm more interested in this. So when you talk about the difference between 1 million increase in advertising in Argentina versus Australia, then this is related to the difference between individualism levels, right? Because 1 point increase in advertising when the moderating effect is 0 will be the same in both countries. So this will be just the main effect. Because this will cancel out when we take a difference, we are only interested in the moderation here. So then you can look at how 1 million increase in advertising. So this should be the difference in individualism. -90 minus 46. Yeah. Are there questions related to this? Sorry, maybe this was a bit confusing. So let's make sure that this is understood, and we will continue from here tomorrow. Okay. Is it +1 or -1? Because -1 wouldn't make sense. When you talk about +1, it is the same as -1, right? When you look at actually the 1 point increase in a variable, it means that you make a prediction with x +1. You have your prediction with x, what the difference? So this would be equivalent to just multiplying the beta coefficient by 1. So what I'm talking about is something like this. So I will explain this, but we are already, so it's 10:45. If you need to leave, please do so. I will probably add a more, like I will have a new slide where I explain a bit more what's happening here. So what I mean by 1 point increase, so for instance,